That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you all for joining in. It's a happy Sunday, isn't it? It's a good time to be together. We can have a little fun here. Hi, Rosie. Oh. Carl Jung once said, "How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side too if I am to be whole. I must have a dark side also if I am to be whole." How many of us here have a dark side? Yeah. I like my dark side when it doesn't get me into trouble, you know? Oh. I know last week I wasn't able to make it, but Reverend Michael spoke about the darkness and the light and how sometimes we shouldn't necessarily run away or hide from the darkness because it has meaning for us. And I thought that was so profound, because sometimes we want to just run away from it, right? Because it doesn't feel good. But this morning, what I want to share with you all is our theme for 2018. So our theme, well, I'll tell you in just a moment, but I want to tell you the process that we went through to come to this theme. And the theme is really an intention. So we did some visioning sessions, and I talked with different congregants and just hearing what's on people's hearts, listening deeply to that sacred covenant that was created for a new minister, and knowing that all of the elements in that covenant are what we are to embody in order to draw towards us that which we desire. And so with the wisdom and the intelligence all coming together, the divine flew through and said, revealing wholeness. This year, we're working on revealing our wholeness. So that's what we'll be talking about today and off and on throughout the year. And like I said, a theme is really an intention. And so sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but for me, when I hear the word wholeness, or at least I used to, it was such an ambiguous word. Like, well, what does it really mean to be whole? Like, what does that mean, you know? They say we're perfect, whole, and complete, but I don't get it, you know? You don't always feel like it, right? So wholeness, I believe, is something that we all have to try to come up with an answer for ourselves. We have to go within, and we have to get quiet, and we have to say to ourselves, if I am to feel whole, what does that mean to me? What does that look like for me? How does that show up in my life? I know personally, I know theoretically, or I know intellectually that I'm whole, but it really takes this whole process, this whole progress in my life of revealing it. Doesn't mean it's not there, just means that we got to work on it, right? Because we're divine intelligence, you guys. We are incarnations of God, right? So that means that we have a lot within these little human bodies of ours. And so we have so many different elements and fragments and puzzle pieces, and we're always trying to put them together. We're trying to figure out, how does this work? How do I keep this in instead of having to repress it or shove it down or try to get away from this part of myself? How does it work together? And so I wanted to share this story with you. I thought it was a pretty cool story because it kind of represents finding the wholeness in the fragments. There was this truth seeker. You know, there's those wanderers who just go around in life and they're always looking for the answers to life's big questions. What is truth? What is my purpose here? What is it all about, right? And so this man came to a guru and he said, can you please tell me, what is truth? And the guru said, no, I can't tell you, but if you go to the edge of town, past the forest, into the cave, there's a well. The well will tell you. And so he does this. He's so excited. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm finally going to know. I'm finally going to get it, you know? And so he goes to the edge of town, and he sees the forest. He runs in the forest. Somehow he finds the cave, and he starts yelling into the well, well, what is the truth to life? What is my purpose here? And the well just rumbles back to him, and he says, you'll find your answer at the crossroads in town. And this truth seeker's like, what? Are you serious? And so he's like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So he goes and he runs to the crossroads in town, and it's like this, and he's standing right in the intersection, and he looks around and he's like, there's nothing here that like is spiritual or deep at all. We've got like a woodworking shop, we've got a metal shop, and we've got a shop that makes like guitar strings. Like how is this like the answers to my life's questions, right? So he felt like he was being made a fool of. He felt like they were playing a prank on him. So he goes back to the well and he yells into the well. He goes, you made a fool of me. There's nothing there that means anything to me. And the well yelled back up and it said, you'll understand in the future. You'll understand in the future. And so he keeps yelling in the well, and the well just echoes back at him all of his like craziness, right? And so he finally gets fed up and he just goes on with his life. And so years later, he's like still wandering, truth-seeking, and it's moonlight. He's walking under moonlight, and all of a sudden he hears the sound of a sitar. You know what a sitar is? You know the music of a sitar? And all of a sudden he's drawn to the sound of the sitar. And it's like music, it's like food to his soul. And he's oh my gosh, I have to be close to this music. It was just penetrating through him. So he gets closer and he sees the strings strumming the sitar, and he's looking at it. And all of a sudden he falls down onto his knees crying because he realized something. He realized that the sitar was made out of the wood and the metal and the strings that came from that shop in the crossroads of town. And he realized that he had all that he had ever needed to bring him joy in his life, to bring him his truth, his true peace and happiness. But he just couldn't put the pieces together right. And so what he says in the end is that he learned that we have all that we ever need. But it's up to us to put the different elements together in a way that creates something more than any of the individual pieces alone could have ever been. And I find that so telling. I find it so telling of us in our lives, because how many of us, although we're told we're whole, how many of us kind of walk around feeling more fragmented, more like we're a little bit of this and a little bit of that and here and there, and none of it's like right here, right? How many of us, I mean, in the strangest of ways too, how many of us are really good at keeping our workplace clean, but our house is a mess? Yes, okay. How many of us feel like we're a really great parent, but we're kind of a crappy daughter or son? Like, we have all these different aspects of us. You know, how many people here feel like around certain people, we're so nice and sweet and loving and it comes natural, and then around others, we're just like a flat out, I'm not going to say it here, you know? And it's like, what? Where does that come from? And we don't want it. We don't want to be that way. And so we start to feel like we need to keep that pushed aside, right? And I think that it's because we have so many different puzzle pieces. We have so many different elements that create us. But we are told for so long through society, or maybe when we're young, our parents, or this collective energy and consciousness, we're told that we need to be good, quiet, we need to be thin, we need to sit pretty, and we need to just follow the line, the straight and narrow line. Do not divert, do not pass go. You know, it's like, this is what we need to do. And if we can't do that, if we cannot be what we think we're supposed to be, then we feel like something's wrong with us. And there's this part of us that says, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit and be quiet when I want to go play. I don't want to sit behind a desk in a cubicle. I want to go sail a yacht, you know? For me, it's like, I don't want to be this shy, quiet introvert. I want to be a minister, you know? We've got all of these like pieces to us, and what ends up happening is that we don't like some of them, and so we push them down, and we push them down, and what happens when we push something down? It explodes all over the place, okay? And it's a big old mess of, oh my goodness, I didn't even know I had that inside of me still, because we just kept pushing it to the side, trying to be this bright, shiny, blah, 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 when really we're all of it, we're the dark side and the light side. We're both sides of the coin. We are still the coin, right? There's two sides of it, but we're still a coin. And so I want to share with you something. Has anybody been wondering what's under here? Okay, did anybody peek? Don't lie. Okay, so let's see. Ta-da, we'll be baking this morning. So I want to share with you some things. So let's look at baking soda, okay? Who's tasted baking soda by itself? It's nasty, right? Like, who wants to eat some baking soda? Not me. But when you mix baking soda in with dough, it neutralizes the acid. It plays a very, very important role in baking. So let's put some baking soda in there. What about salt? Who likes salt? Yeah? Too much salt will kill you. Not enough salt will kill you. And it's kind of tart. But you know what about salt? Salt makes sweet things sweeter when you put just the right amount in. Not that much. Okay. This is an analogy, guys. Come on. Work with me here. So we've got flour for those who are not gluten intolerant, right? Okay, flour is nasty. Like, who wants to eat flour? No. But flour is like the foundational, fundamental part of any baking. Almost any baking, right? And it's the necessary ingredient to create the structure of things. And so we have that. And then we have the good stuff, right? We've got sugar. I'd love to be sugar all the time. We like sugar, right? But too much sugar, diabetes, gets pretty bad from there. But it's so delicious. We just want it all the time. And then we've got chocolate chips. Who wants to be a chocolate chip? We all want to be a chocolate chip, right? But if I eat too much chocolate, I'm sick to my stomach, and then I feel bad about myself and all that stuff, right? So we put it all together. And what does this demonstrate? This demonstrates that we, my friends, are a cookie. Right? We're a cookie. We are a cookie. Sometimes we have a little bit too much baking soda and we wish we were a little bit more sugar, right? Who knew that salt could make sweet sweeter? There's all these different parts of us, all these different pieces of us that separately, they're disgusting. Well, not all of them, okay? Not all of your parts are disgusting. But cancel. Okay. Separately, they're just not as good as they could be if we put them all together in the right proportion. And so let us begin to think about that in our own lives. Let's begin to think about the parts of ourselves that we like, the parts that we're trying to hide, the parts that we wish weren't a part of us. And let's start to think about, in this intention, don't worry, we have a whole year to do this. Let's start to think about how we can really mix all of it together. Some people might seem like they're really harsh people, but really, they're able to stand up for themselves. They're able to speak their mind. That might be a part of you. Some people are really quiet and shy, and maybe they're able to have a little bit of compassion. We don't have to dislike the different parts of ourselves. We don't have to. And so, like I said before, we are literally the divine incarnations. We are the way that God thinks, feels, acts, moves, touches, expresses in life. We are. So, guys, we're going to be complicated, and we're going to be messy, because we have, divine potential, okay? So it's going to get a little crazy, and there's going to be a lot of subpersonalities. And we can start to embrace them. We can start to say, oh, I know I have a little bit of this in me. Why don't I bring that out in this situation? We can take control of it. Because when we take control of it, when we start to reveal our own divinity, when we start to reveal our own wholeness, not only will it change our lives, not only will it change the world around us, but we will begin to utilize the power that's always been within us to heal ourselves, to affect our lives in a way that is more than just us. What happens when you know that you're enough? What happens to other people when you know that you're enough? They know they're enough. Because when you know that you have all the pieces and parts to you that you need, and you know that there's nothing that you are lacking, you allow others around you to feel the same way. And that is really important. And so what I know for certain, and what I'd like to just say right now, is that not only do I know that every one of you are whole, not only am I absolutely certain of that, but I'm absolutely certain that you are the greatness of God standing right before me. Why do you think I like to be on this side of things? You are pure goodness and life. You have everything you need within you to heal your wounds, to answer your own questions, to seek your own truth and know the answers. You are it, guys. We are it. I want to just close with sharing this poem by Mary Oliver. I'm sure many of you have heard this one before. It says, "One day you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles, mend my life. Mend my life, each voice cries. But you don't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind peered with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible, it was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stone. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly began to recognize as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing that you could do, determined to save the only life that you could save, your own." So I invite you to move into prayer with me now. How good it feels to know that I am in a room filled with the divine, that in each and every seat, each and every footprint is a magnificent good, a mighty good that roars with laughter and joy and peace and compassion and authority into the world. How good it feels to be in a room with people who know that they are enough, and speaking that message and bringing that message out into the world. We heal all people. We touch all people with our consciousness, steeped in this deep knowing that there is one life, that there is one mind, that there is one heartbeat, and it is ours now, and it is forever beating in and through all. The glory of God is within us at this moment. For this I am so very grateful. And so it is.